Hello, I just want to do a quick update of week 2 of our studies in the Gospel of John and looking at the sort of relationship with God that Jesus introduced. John 2 is very interesting. We've got two primary stories. We've got one, the wedding at Cana, and the other, Jesus in the temple. Interesting to compare the two. Where is God more present in these two stories? In the 7-day Jewish weddings could have lasted between 5 and 7 days. So, this is a big feast going on, and they run out of wine, and Jesus basically gives them 600 bottles of wine. If you work it out, it says there's 6 jars, I think, and they're 20 gallons each, and a gallon, I think, holds 5 bottles. So a bit of maths means that Jesus delivers 600 bottles of wine to the wedding party. So, and yet in the temple, he talks about the fact that people have turned it into a marketplace, and he kicks over the tables and is very upset with the way people are presenting God, really, which is, as he said, in terms of a marketplace. So you have like a social event of a celebration, two families coming together, two people coming together, and Jesus, embraces that and facilitates the festivities and ensure that they can enjoy themselves and have a good time. And the wedding feast, of course, is a symbol of the never-ending wine of the Spirit that's available to us. And also a reminder that Jesus was known for his hospitality. He's often mentioned as eating with people, of enjoying socialising and talking with people, which obviously must have been a two-way thing. You can't really be very sociable if people don't like talking to you. And it also shows how Jesus responds very positively in non-religious settings. We often see him much more active and happy in a non-religious, often like a domestic setting or something like that, or in this case, obviously a wedding feast. Often when he's engaged with religious people or in the temple, as in this chapter, he's not very happy, and he really thinks that the religion of the time is not presenting God as truthfully. That's the reason, incidentally, why the gospel tends to use the word the Jews, which is strange because you think, well, wasn't Jesus a Jew, so why is it talking about the Jews? But at the beginning of the gospel, it's clear that Jesus is one sent from God, one come from heaven. So he often talks about what he's seen and what the Father has told him. So although he is a Jew, he's more than a Jew. He's the one come from God who's to tell the truth about God. So Jesus talks about tearing down the temple, and we'll hear about that later in the gospel, that the time is coming and is yet come in which those who worship God are worshipping him in spirit and in truth, and not in a temple built with human hands. So we're moving kind of outside of these very kind of religious restrictions of lots of do's and don'ts. The Torah, which Paul says was like a schoolmaster, which was only there to kind of lead us to Christ. But then when Christ has come, we don't need the schoolmaster anymore. The coming of the Spirit is described in the New Testament as a wedding between God and the believer, where Paul says we're seated with Christ in heavenly places. That it's God and humanity becoming one in a divine union of love. So the wedding is a very important symbol, as well as teaching us about what's important to God. But it's also a symbol of the union of God and the believer together. And when we look at toxic religion and toxic Christianity, we see, and we discussed experiences of sort of a toxic faith. People, essentially, it's about making people feel disempowered. It's about controlling strategies. Often pastors or senior people in the church are very manipulative and controlling, and it's about that sort of thing is something that destroys lives. Whereas what Jesus is about here He's empowering people. He's got a life-giving message. He's very positive. And if we're feeling, bad, unhappy in a religious context, then that is not to do with God, and that's not the God that Jesus was talking about. We should feel supported. We should feel encouraged, and that's a good mark of a non-toxic religious community is the fact that you feel encouraged, supported, loved, cared for, and not manipulated. So basically that was the sort of thing we discussed, the fact that when Jesus was in the temple he wasn't happy with what was going on there. When he was at the wedding he was very happy. So we're going to do John 3 next week, and I'll do a summary of that then. Bye.